Hey guys, so today we're learning about how to determine a function from a relation. And so a relation is a set of input and output values that are mapped or paired together. So let's say we have a coordinate pair right here, 3, 4. So the input is usually seen as the x value of that coordinate or of any coordinate in a relation. And so if I had my input, then it would be equal to 3. And the output is considered the y value of a coordinate. So my output here would be 4. So in a relation, the set of x coordinates or the input of the relation is called the domain. And the output of the relation or the y values of the coordinates in the relation are called the range. We will learn more about domain and range in a next video. So if this is a relation, then what is a function? A function is actually a relation in which each input value has only one output value. So meaning each x value has only one y value. So you can't have the same x value, say, let me show you guys an example. Let's say we had the x value and the y value in the table. And let's assign these random numbers. So this is going to be our table of our relation. So our relation is based on these. And so to know whether a relation is also considered a function, you would have, from a data table, you would have to look at the x side, the input of the function. And so when you look at the input over here, you see that you have 2 of the same x values. And each of these 2 x values correspond to a different y value. So one x value corresponds to 5, but the other one x value corresponds to 6. Since there are 2 x values that correspond to different y values, this cannot be a function. So an example of a function in these x and y values would be, let's say we had the x and we had the y. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. As you can see here, each of the x values are different. All of them are different. And if all of them are different, then they will each correspond to different y values. So this, in fact, is considered a function. So a third situation that we could have is, let's say we had x, y, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, and this last one would be 5. So over here, if you look here, you can see that all of the x values are different. But when you look over at the y values, you see that there are 2 y values. So we have 2 5s. This would still be considered a function because even though there are 2 different x inputs with the same y value, it doesn't matter because the x value is not the same. So if our x values were the same and they had different y inputs, then it would not be a function. But since all of the x values are different, it is still a function even though 2 of these have the same y input. So this in fact would be considered a function. So the vertical line test is what it sounds like. It's a test, and it's to see if a graph could be considered a function. So most graphs are relations. They are, whether it's a linear graph, a quadratic graph, an exponential graph, those are all relations. But not all of them are functions. And so the easiest and quickest way to tell if a relation is also a function on a graph is to use the vertical line test. And so what the vertical line test is, you would draw a straight line through any point in the graph, and if it is a relation, it will cross in more than one point. The line will cross the function or the relation in more than one point. But if it is a function, then the line will only cross the function at one point. So I have an example here. I'm going to draw a straight line, a vertical line, through this graph. As you can see here, it only crosses through one area, that it's right there. And since it only crosses through that one area, it is a function. The thing about this though is that this has to be true for all vertical lines drawn anywhere on the function. So if I drew a line here, this would also only cross in one point. But for a relation, if you go, let's say I'm going to draw a vertical line through this, and let's say I draw it right here. As you can see, the line I drew only crosses the function at one point, at its tangent. And so you might think, well, yeah, this is a relation, but it is not. Because if I draw a similar vertical line elsewhere on the graph, say about right here, this line will cross the graph at 2 points, right here and right here. And since at some point in the graph, the line crosses at 2 points, this would not be considered a function, and this would be considered a function. That was a terrible circle. This would be considered a function. Cool. So let's do some practice problems. So right here, problem number 1, fill out the table. And so what we had said before is that we have we have the input and we have the output. We said the input corresponds to the x value of a coordinate pair. And the total set of input values in a relation or a function is called the domain. Now, for the output value is the y value of a coordinate pair, and the set of y values in a relation is called the range. So the next problem is complete the sentence and determine which of the following are relations. And so let's check. A blank is a set of input and output values that are mapped or paired together. And so let's fill it in as a relation. A relation is a set of input and output values that are mapped or paired together. And so it wants us to determine which of the following are relations but not functions. Let me add that here, not functions. So the first one we have is a graph, and what we said on a graph to determine if it is a relation or if it's not a function is you do the vertical line test. So let's draw a vertical line through this graph, and as you can see, it crosses through 2 points. So this is a relation and it is not a function. Our next one over here, it has a table, and so we have to see, let's check the x values. The x values are all different, and so we can conclude, even though these two y values are actually the same, since 2 different x coordinates correspond to them and the x coordinates are not the same, this would also be considered a relation and not a function. Our last one over here, you can see we look at the x values, and you can see that there are actually two of the same x values. And so since these two are here, we can automatically determine that this is a function. And it is not a relation. It is a relation, but it is not. It is a function. So it wouldn't be correct in this form. So our next one, let's move on. And we're going to fill this out for a function. A function is a relation where each input value has only one output value. And so again, we're going to do the vertical line test. So I draw a vertical line, and I can clearly see that it only crosses in one point. And just to double check, I'm going to draw a few more lines, but I think you can already tell that wherever I draw the lines here, they will always only cross at one point. And so this is a function. For our next one, we have a table, and we're going to look at the x coordinates, x values in this table, and you can see that there are two of the same x coordinates. So we can immediately say that this is not a function. This one is out. Our third table, we're going to look at the x values. And they are all different, and even though there are two of the same y coordinates, since all of the x coordinates are different, we can safely say that this in fact is a function. I hope you guys understood everything, and I hope you guys liked this video. Please like and subscribe down below for more videos. Comment any ideas that you want me to do for videos, and I'll come back with my next video in a little bit. Thank you. Bye.